All right, let's talk about one of the most important things any boat owner needs to know, the 100-hour service for your Yamaha Outboard. And trust me, this is way more than just changing some oil. We're talking about reliability, safety, and, protecting that big investment hanging off the back of your boat.
Listen to this. This is a real quote from a boater who thought, I'll get to it later. And we hear stories like this all the time. One minute, it's a perfect day on the water. The next, you're on the radio waiting for a very expensive and, frankly, embarrassing tow home. And that right there, that's the nightmare scenario we're all trying to avoid.
So, here's the game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to cover the high stakes of neglect. Then, we'll get into what this service actually is. After that, we'll spotlight 3 absolutely critical tasks, and we'll wrap it all up with the big question. Should you do it yourself or take it to the dealer? So, let's kick things off with the big why. Why is this service something you just can't skip? Well, it really boils down to 3 numbers. 3 simple numbers that have a huge impact on your wallet and your peace of mind. Okay, first up, this number. $2,300. That is what you could be looking at for a repair bill if your engine overheats because one little part fails, the water pump impeller. We're talking about a tiny, cheap rubber part that, if you ignore it, can cause massive damage, like a warped cylinder head. It's the absolute definition of an ounce of prevention. Next up, 15%. What's that all about? Well, it's all about your fuel economy. An engine that's running right, with fresh oil, clean filters, new plugs, it just runs better. It's more efficient. And folks who actually track this stuff have seen their fuel economy improve by up to 15%. Think about what that saves you at the fuel dock over a whole season. And the last big number you need to know? $1,800. That's how much extra value you could see when you go to sell your boat, just by having a documented service history. Seriously, when a buyer sees that logbook filled out, they know the engine was cared for and they will pay a premium for that peace of mind. So you see, when you add it all up, this regular service, it isn't really an expense. It's an investment. It protects your engine from blowing up, it protects the value of your boat, and most importantly, it protects those precious, perfect days out on the water. Okay, so we've established the why. It's a huge deal. But what is this service, really? What's actually happening during this comprehensive health check for your engine?
You can think of it like this. The 100-hour service is preventative medicine for your outboard. It's a whole checklist of inspections and fluid changes that Yamaha designed specifically to catch the little things, a little water in the gear oil, a wire that's starting to corrode, before they can turn into those big, catastrophic failures that ruin a weekend, or worse, your whole season.
Now, what does Yamaha themselves say? Well, their recommendation is super clear. You need to do this service every 100 hours of use or every single year, whichever one comes up first. So let's say you're a weekend warrior and you only put 50 hours on the engine last season. Doesn't matter. A full year has passed, so it's time for the service. All right, let's get our hands dirty, so to speak. To really show you the value here, we're going to zoom in on 3 of the most vital tasks in this service. And think of these less as chores and more like being a detective for your engine. First on our list, changing the gear case oil. This is about so much more than just lubrication. The old oil that comes out tells you a story. If it looks milky, kind of like coffee with way too much cream, that's a red flag. It means water's getting in past your seals. Catching that early means you can replace a $10 seal instead of a $1,000 set of gears down the road. It's a perfect diagnostic tool. Okay, next up, we pull the spark plugs. And these things are like little windows right into the health of each cylinder. Their condition tells you exactly what's going on inside. Are they all black and sooty? Maybe you're running a bit rich, could be an injector thing. Are they chalky white and blistered? Whoa, that's a classic sign of overheating. It's an inspection that can spot a problem way before you'd ever notice it while running. So we've looked at oil, we've looked at spark plugs, both super important, right? But here's a question for you. What do you think is the single most critical, can't miss, absolutely have to do it task in this entire service? The one thing that, if you skip it, poses the biggest and most immediate danger to your engine. And the answer is the water pump impeller. This little rubber part is literally the heart of your engine's cooling system. It's spinning the whole time your engine is on, pumping water to keep things cool. But they're a wear item, they get brittle, they break, and when they fail, your engine temperature will redline in minutes. Remember that scary $2,300 repair bill? This $40 part is what prevents it. It is the cheapest insurance policy you will ever buy. Okay, so now we know what to do and why it's so darn important. That leaves us with the last big question. Who's going to do the work? You or a dealer? Let's break it down so you can make the right call for you.
But before we dive in, we have to bust a huge myth right now. A lot of people think that if they work on their own engine, it'll void the warranty. That is absolutely not true. There's a law called the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act that protects you. You are allowed to service your own equipment. The catch? You have to use the right parts, follow the procedures, and, this is the big one, you have to keep good records. So let's put it all on the table. DIY versus the dealer. What's the real difference? Well, the cost is obvious. DIY is maybe a couple $100 in parts. The dealer, you're looking at $500 to $800. Time is another one. A Saturday afternoon for you versus maybe a few days without your boat at the shop. But the biggest trade-off, I think, is knowledge. When you do it yourself, you learn your engine inside and out. With a dealer, you're paying for their expertise and their fancy computer diagnostic tools. Neither one is wrong. It just depends on what you value most.
And you know, that really gets to the heart of it all. Doesn't matter if you're the one turning the wrenches or if you've got a great relationship with your mechanic. The important thing is taking ownership. Because that consistent care is what builds confidence. It's about that feeling of turning the key when you're miles offshore and just knowing your engine is going to get you home safe.
Look, at the end of the day, it all comes down to consistency. If you follow this guide, if you stay on top of the maintenance, your engine will be ready for anything. So the only question left is, are you?